Hello and welcome to SuperGrads by Top Rankers, India's most personalized MBA preparation and mentorship program. Welcome back to the 5-part series of the CMAT Innovation and Entrepreneurship. My name is Vijyaditya Singh. I am Ahmedabad pass out batch of 2024. This is the third part, the third live session again at 5 p.m. Bringing to you from the Top Rankers office. We've already covered 2 sessions before. We'll have a recap of what we've covered in the first 2 sections, and then we'll go forward in what section 3 has for us. But before we begin, a very happy Makar Sankranti to all of you. I hope you and your family have the best time celebrating this summer solstice. The flow is as follows. In session 1, we covered exam pattern and overview. We covered some key topics from entrepreneurship and models and theories and dimensions till the second session, where we covered the different types of questions that are asked, as well as some frequently asked concepts based on our analysis of previous year papers. This primarily included different types of questions that are asked, some case studies, some matchmaking, some assertion reasoning. We converted what is innovation, some government promotions, the startup definition in itself, and that's where we concluded. Today we are on session number 3. This is exclusively focused. This, you can believe, is one of the most crucial parts of this series, because we'll only be deep diving upon some juicy aspects of some frequently asked concepts. You can expect at least a few questions even this year to be coming out of this, and hence a very important part for us to be focusing on. Let's go forward. Once again, if you are preparing for your interviews right now, if you are preparing for GDPI, your VAD exams, or in general, if you are preparing for the upcoming year's CAT or any other management entrance test, this is my referral code. You can use it to avail 15% discount on all our products on our website. You can use it. It's Vijya92T2E374. Very difficult to remember, so note it down in case you have to. Let's start with some key concepts and definitions, starting from IPR. Not to be confused with IPO, something that we covered in a few other sessions already. IPR has been asked through and through the CMAT Entrepreneurship and Innovation series, and hence let's have some deep diving on what this means and what are the different parameters of this. So IPR, or intellectual property rights, properly consists of prevention of your innovation being copied by somebody else, to make sure that innovators are incentivized into innovating new things and their innovations are not copied by others. There are certain restrictions that the governments, not only in India but all across the world, have come together to make sure that these things are not copied, and there is a certain restriction in terms of use of innovations. Let's deep dive into 4 of such kinds. Number 1 is patents. You might have heard a lot on this already. Patents, for example, protection for inventions, exclusive right for 20 years. Say, for example, if somebody's made a medicine for the first time, it is something that can be reverse engineered and created again by another company. Just to incentivize the company who invented, or the individual who invented it, the individual can file a patent, and for the next 20 years, anybody who's making this specific injection or syringe needs to either pay the inventor a certain amount of fee, because the patent is owned by them, and only when the patent owner accepts the use of such things by other companies is it allowed. Otherwise, they cannot use things in general. Hence, patents protect innovators from their innovation being used by other people, for sure. Then we have certain copyrights. Copyrights are exceptionally famous and common in the music industry. You would see a lot of videos that are posted on YouTube or Instagram. They come down because the music that is used in the background is typically that they've not something bought or have a copyright from. So you can expect a lot of literally artistic and musical work protection coming from the copyrights. Anytime you use certain things that are protected by copyright, you need to make sure that you have an active license and permission from the copyright owner to be using it on an official level. Then comes trademarks. Trademarks, they protect brands, particularly symbols and logos, from being ripped off by other people. Say, for example, the famous brand Adidas, has a lot of copies. Say, for example, somebody is making shoe called Abibas, or there's a lot of fake or counterfeit products in the market from Zara and a lot of other LV and such brands. You might know a lot of markets near around your area that might be delivering counterfeit products. To prevent all of those things from happening, we do trademarks. Now, say for example, if there's a brand called Tata, which is known all across the world, you cannot expect somebody else to just open another store and call it Tata as well, right? That disturbs the brand value, that is not aligned with the kind of symbols, the kind of graphics, and it's basically creating a false impression, transferring all the emphasis and the money that Tata Group has spent on its brand values to another brand value for free, and hence trademarks protect logos and symbols and names from being used by the owner from anybody else. Similarly, there are some trade secrets. This is some confidential information providing competitive advantage to one person over the other. One of the biggest examples of this is the famous KFC chicken popcorns. There's some specific powder or spice that is added to the chicken popcorns to make it extremely tasty. Nobody knows what that is. The very recipe of Coke, perhaps, nobody knows about it. A lot of things that you eat, particularly in this industry, are protected by trade secrets. Even if an employee does go out of this organization, it's made sure that these trade secrets are not revealed by this individual even after they've left the firm. All of such intellectual property rights are aimed at only one thing, that is to protect the innovator in himself or herself from being exploited by other people, and the innovator gets incentivized for the kind of innovation and efforts they've put into making such things. Those are some intellectual property right issues. Let's go forward. Then comes a business plan component. A lot of times it's asked in the CMAT exam along the lines of what all should a business plan component have, what all individually, even if this is not asked in terms of what all should a business plan component have. Each of these elements are individually asked, so it's very important that we take a deep dive on each of these segments specifically. The business plan component always starts with an executive summary. For somebody to have a more context and build up into directly jumping into the idea, usually what happens is when you think of a business plan, you directly start conveying your emotions, your product. Before doing all of that, it's very important that we summarize the entire thing for a person to have context, and then to answer all of the questions that come following, then we take a detailed dive at it. This is also the area in which we share a lot of insights. Insights are generated by human beings and business owners over the course of time. They are truths that have been out there in the market but are felt personally stronger and build on which the entire businesses are kept out. Say, for example, after COVID, there was a lot of increase in the number of sales of things online. This is a key highlight which somebody probably in the space of online education or online food delivery would like to bring out, because this is driving customer behavior, which is the foundation of any business. And hence, the executive summary usually slides with an overview of what we're trying to make. And the reason of making it is because of a certain highlight or a customer insight that we have. And that's where the entire business plan component starts. Then comes the company description, mission, vision, and the kind of products and services they're making. This is basically the slide in which you tell what are you here to do. Your mission is a directly achievable outcome in a specific period of time with tangible outputs. Your mission could be becoming the second biggest YouTube channel on cooking, for example. That is a mission statement. A vision statement goes above and beyond that and talks about a more long term and North Star metric, something that cannot be achieved but is a pursuit to drive ourselves forward. This would include becoming the best online celebrity chef. Now, being the best online celebrity chef requires a lot of things. This includes beating the upcoming competitors. There might be new competitors. The definition of best can change. At some point of time, you could be the person who's the most trusted. You could be also the person who's most famous or have the highest number of subscribers. So the definitions can also keep changing. So your company should start with a mission statement in terms of what do you want to achieve right now in this coming year, 6 months, 1 year. Then it should be driven by a vision which keeps changing dynamically, but the North Star metrics say remains same. If the company ever feels lost in any specific situation, they can just go to their vision statement and create a meaning for them from there. After that, the main part of this is the product piece in which you describe your product as to how are you solving for a specific problem or creating an innovation that solves for a specific piece of problem by highlighting what are the problems of the specific customer and the customer target, and then how your specific product tries to solve all of those things one at a time. The third part of any business plan component is market analysis. We talk about who is this product meant for. Say for example, if I make a cookery channel on YouTube, I am doing cooking on this on an everyday basis. Who am I targeting? You can't expect people who are working class, going to the office every day to be enjoying your cookery channel, especially when you're doing it maybe from 1 in the afternoon till 3 in the afternoon. The most of the content that you need to make sure goes out there needs to be tailored to a specific audience. Say for example, if your audience is people above the age of 65, basically retired people who are staying at home and are trying to learn how to cook for the first time. Now that is a very specific customer market that you are targeting. In that customer market, there could be different profiles. Now, customer market is the total number of people who you are targeting. Of these, there are certain divisions which are called customer segments. Customer segments, for example, could be a person a retiree living in tier 3 city who knows how to cook but does not know how to cook international dishes. It could be a person living in tier 1 city who does not know how to cook at all. All of these could be different customer profiles in the target market that you're trying. And then you also talk about the trends in the market that are driving this behavior. For example, some of these trends could be a lot of new cooks that are getting hired, or new employment that is being generated as chefs and the kind of salaries that new chefs are having. A lot of people after their retirement want to pursue cooking as their profession full time, and maybe they just want to learn more and be better employed after their retirement by simply cooking maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. And hence, this is a market trend that accentuates that the number of people who would be subscribing to your YouTube channel as a cooking show host would be more. Just to make sure all these things are covered, I would encourage that you try to make a business plan component yourself. This will give you a lot of things to think about. For example, if you want to build your own water park, if you want to build your own chain of luxury cruises or F1 tracks, or if you want to build your own sports bar, what all would be required, what all are the right questions to be asked is something that you will be able to understand when you go through all of these components in detail. Let's go forward. Let's understand what competitive analysis means. Competitive analysis basically means anybody who's in the market with a similar product or targets a similar target customer segment with some other measure or means is a competitor. Your direct competitor is a person who's selling. This is very important. This could be very well asked because this is some high order thinking question, and the difference between direct and indirect competitors is extremely important for you to understand. For KFC, the right direct competitor is perhaps Wow Fried Chicken. So if they're making fried chicken, their competitors is an international fried chicken chain. But an indirect competitor could be McDonald's. While McDonald's does not make the same product like KFC does, they target the same kind of customers. And say, for example, if you come to a mall and you see a food court and you see a KFC and you see a McDonald's, there are chances that you choose McDonald's over KFC. So basically, the competitor can see you in the same space and they're choosing your other people over you. This is called indirect competition. You can comment in the chat section on the live on any indirect competitors that you can think of, and we'll clarify how they may or may not be indirect competitors. Let's go forward. Let's talk about products and services. There's a detailed background and specification of the product that you're trying to build. This is the most nittiest, grittiest area in which you need to know all your things, right? Because when you're making a business plan, this is where ideas turn into execution, because a lot of things that you might want to have in your product because of certain constraints could not be possible. And the reason you work around all of them is to finally create the product and services that you have, and it's very important that you have these right. Then comes the marketing plan. After you've done the base building of why we are doing, what we are doing, who we are doing it for, how do you tell the world about what you're trying to do is something that the marketing plan consists of. This includes promotional and marketing strategies. You can market yourself through both organic and inorganic mediums. Organic mediums include blogs, YouTube channels, any form of non-paid media that is out there for people to consume. On the other hand, when you talk about inorganic marketing, we talk about, say for example, if you boost a certain video on YouTube, then it's called inorganic marketing. Search engine optimization requires you to get the right keywords and promote certain words and put you above your competitors. That is another form of inorganic marketing. Hence, a marketing plan is exceptionally important for you to understand how to launch your market to the entire world. Then comes financial projections. Financial projections is where, say for example, if you have an investor, the most important piece for any financial investor would be undoubtedly the P&L, the cash flow, and the break-even analysis. I'll tell you what each of these mean individually. Your P&L primarily talks about how do you make money and how do you spend money. It talks about different revenue streams. It talks about everybody that you would need to spend money on as a fixed cost or as a variable cost as the business grows. This makes sure that any idea and marketing that you have in the P&L, of course, also includes the marketing expenses. This basically makes sure that you are not just a money burning machine, but you actually earn more money, the timeline of which can be managed. Then comes cash flow. This is extremely important because while a lot of things can happen very positively on the P&L, one must have the kind of cash required to make sure things are turned every day. Say for example, on a specific day you earn a profit of 10 lakh rupees and the next day you need to invest 5 lakh rupees. Ideally, since you've earned 10 lakh rupees already, you have the money to be investing it the next day. But maybe it's the case that while you booked your expense and you booked your profits, you actually have not received the cash in hand. The person who's supposed to collect the cash or the person who's supposed to pay said there's a promise, he's paid you by check, and the kind of time it takes for you to get the money out of that check is still not there, and the next day you need to pay somebody in cash. Hence, even after being positive in terms of the P&L, you will break in terms of cash flow. Hence, it's extremely important that we have a cash flow and P&L balance at the same point of time. Then comes break-even analysis. Break-even analysis is when you try to understand that all the money that you put into a specific business, when does it actually start coming back to you and giving you back certain amounts of money. This is the juiciest part. People like to prefer to have businesses that are as early break evening. The problem with such businesses then is, since a business only requires perhaps 2 maybe 3 months to break even, anybody in the industry or the world could enter into that business and earn the same kind of profits, which will increase the competition and will leave you nothing with you unless you have something very specific that nobody else can offer. Hence, break-even analysis tells you that specific period of time in which you will start earning more money that you've spent in the business. And the last is the funding request. To make sure all of this happens, business plans typically have a funding request and the usage plan. They talk about basically in Shark Tank, what happens is you give your entire product suite, and towards the end, you ask them for a certain amount of money that will kickstart all of this and get the ball rolling. You are tell them how you are going to use this specific amount of money. Say, for example, you want to start a popcorn business. You go out and tell them every aspect of the business plan, and towards the end, you can tell them that if you invest in my business for 50 lakh rupees, I'll spend 25 lakh in making sure the business network is spread. I already have made the manufacturing setup, and the next 25 lakh rupees would be invested in making marketing it on different quick commerce platform, and hence this is the plan in which the funding that is being used will be spent on, and hence the capital needed and usage plan become a part of the funding request. This summarizes the business plan components that a typical session would have. Again, anytime that you are doing this, please make sure that all of these things are included when you are making your own business startups. The conclusion of a business plan, of course, is identifying the feasibility of the business. It might be the case that towards the end of any such specific session, you might realize, or any such activity, you might realize the business actually does not make sense. This happens more often than not, and it's really surprising because once you start drilling down on the specific nuances that exist in the market, the kind of restraints under which you're working, a lot of business plans fail. Hence, it's very important before you actually start going on a business in actuality that you have all these questions in your head permanently solved. This again is the most important slide in the most important session of the entire 5-part series. There you can almost expect a short question every year. A question comes on these things. There are 4 types of entrepreneurs. Let's try to understand what each of them do differently. There are people who innovate, they create new ideas, introduce novel products and services. This is what typically we think an innovator should be doing, and typically is what an entrepreneur doing right now. Imitators are people who successfully copy a business model with a local network. Say, for example, if the entire country is already running Ola and Uber, there might be a quick bike mobile service that is only applicable in your specific city. Such platforms are basically imitators. They're copying the exact business model but from a local network. If you have any imitator from your local surrounding, please comment on it in the chat box. Then comes the Fabian entrepreneurs. Fabian entrepreneurs are reluctant, slow to adopt change, and they're risk averse. These are basically traditional business owners who do not want to change their ways of working. You would find these in the oldest supermarkets in your city. People who are sitting on retail shops, people who are doing B2B businesses. They do not want to, pursue new techniques. Something's working for them already. They have established connects, and they are against, adopting, and especially at a very fast rate, because things have been working well for them, and it's okay for them, according to them, to not change at a pace with the market. Then comes drone. Drones neither innovate nor succeed in business ventures. They just try to imitate a business as is. Their agenda is not to break the market. They just want to be one of the many others, and they basically drone you or become a copy of you, unless one of the competitors stays in the market or leaves. There are different types of innovation that, of course, come with this. There is disruptive innovation, transforming established market. Uh, Say, for example, Ola and Uber. Disruptive innovation, they change the complete network of cabs that were found in India and the mechanism through which we interacted. Then there are incremental innovations. Say, for example, iPhone 15, then iPhone 16, then iPhone 17. Those are incremental innovations. They improve on the existing products, and there are like smaller upgrades compared to the previous ones. Then comes product innovation. There are new and improved products or services focusing on features and benefits. These are products that have never been in the market. Say, for example, when Super Truth came out in the market, it is a completely Indian organic protein powder with a lot of protein based whey chips. Such products, when they came into the market for the first time, there was no such thing available in the first place. While it did not disrupt, considering the fact that there were a lot of alternative protein sources that people could go to, there was a new product that came out because protein chips was never something that was out there, and this is called product innovation. And then there, of course, is process innovation. In my last lecture, I talked about how United Colors of Berkeley is the only and the first brand to make sure that their clothes and garments are dyed after being manufactured, to make sure that they are fast in adopting to the colors of the trend at that point of time. Unlike everybody else who already has colored clothes before they're manufactured as the final output. Hence, this kind of change is called a process innovation. There are some funding sources for startups. Again, a very important session on this, because this is extremely important in terms of the questions, even in terms of your interviews if you're preparing for them. Bootstrapping is where this typically starts. Any fund or any startup typically starts with bootstrapping. You need to pool in a certain amount of money, for usually personal savings, to go to the point at which you can raise external funding. Say, for example, if you want to do a business, you want to create an app and then scale it to the world. The first idea, the first UI UX building, the first testing would require, say, for example, 1 maybe 2 lakh rupees. You need to hire certain amount of people. You need some test users to try it. All of this would require certain kind of money. This is called bootstrapping. A lot of big firms in themselves have started as bootstrapped organizations and still remain bootstrap organizations. This is definitely the starting place. Is this the ending place? Maybe and maybe not. Then come angel investors. Angel investors are individuals, like probably people who earned enough money over the period of time. They invest in early stages, more favorable terms. They invest in startups as an individual. They have a lot of money that they can pool in, and they try to figure out which startup is the best startup and how they can add value to that startup, and based on that they invest a certain amount of money. And then comes venture capital. The difference between angel investors and venture capital is, while angel investors are individual investors, the venture capitals are professionals. They require equity exchange and high returns are expected, same as angel investors. But these are professional fundings for growth. Unlike angel investors, where an individual is coming along, these are typically boards or companies that make sure all of these things are done right. And then, of course, there is crowdfunding. You would have seen this in your colleges or perhaps in your offices, to pull in small amounts of money from many people. A lot of NGOs try to do this by funding a lot of money. A lot of colleges do events and music events and sports events using crowdfunding, and that's something that's not typically the biggest driver of startups in India or the world today, but is something that you can do to make sure that small amounts of money can be raised. How do you then manage the risks once you've taken in that sort of money? You do scenario planning. You consider what if situation. Say, for example, if you've planned on, making 100 packets of chips with 2 people, You do a scenario analysis that what happens if the demand of popcorns go to 1000 people. Would I need more people? If I need more people, how many more people would be required, and would the business still be profitable in that case? You need to diversify. Another way of making sure that your company does not go down is to diversify in as many operations and products and services as possible. Say, for example, Sony Ericsson back in the day, while making smartphones, also diversified into smart cameras. Today, you might not see a lot of Sony Ericsson smartphones, but Sony Ericsson lenses and the camera they built over the period of time has still stood a test of time. So it's only a matter of fact of diversification. The more number of products that you have, the higher chances of you going through the market with a longer period of time. And there's of course market feasibility analysis versus the market size, the growth, and the customer profiles and competition before launch. This is extremely important. Say for example, if you want to launch, a popcorn brand, again you would see competitors like 4700 BC, Act 2, who are doing good enough at a certain specific point. A packet of these popcorns would typically cost 30 and 40. Now, say for example, if you want to manage your risk, if you want to enter a certain market, it would be preferred that you see if you can price your product either higher or lower than the existing saturation competition, and then try to identify the customer profiles and the market size of that specific segment for you to have an analysis of would it be worth for you, to enter the market with such a product. Once you've done all of this, the next step comes in where you want to talk about scaling up a business. The major concerns for growing enterprising and scaling up is time management. The most difficult thing is to allocate resources because business cycle comes and goes, and resources either they are here for the long term. You can't hire people for certain ups and downs. You need to make sure that the demand and supply of human resources remain stable, but your external situations might not. So a lot of things like gig management and gig work is then employed. Then comes human resource management, finding the right kind of talent in the specific city and the kind of background that you would need. And then once you have them, can you retain them? And can you motivate them to do the best of their ability? Then comes financial planning. Of course, we've talked about this, managing the cash flow and finding investors. Then is market potential, ensuring adequate market size and opportunity. We've already talked about this in our previous slide. Then comes diversification and performance measurement. Performance measurement is basically driven on the philosophy that everything that gets measured gets managed. This is something that you should be actively using as a concept in your mind, in your personal lives, in your interviews, and please make sure this drills down in your head. Anything that gets measured gets managed. It's only when you put a number or a numerical tag on a specific number that you can start monitoring. Say for example, instead of saying, I want to do exceptional marketing, what you should actually be saying is, I want to do a market campaign that targets this big of a number. Finally, moving towards entrepreneurship development programs, how does entrepreneurship in India gets promoted and how does it develop over the period of time? This starts typically from identification and selection of the right entrepreneurs for training. The government makes sure that entrepreneurs, especially in MSMEs, are trained. They find the right people. Then they find the right kind of faculty to be training them, people who are experienced in such domains. They decide on a curriculum and then they create a support network of such people. This is extremely important because the entire startup ecosystem is an extremely close-knit community. One person helps the other, refers to the third person, and that's how the entire community of entrepreneurs is built. Hence, it's very important that a support network is created for all the entrepreneurs themselves. I hope this session was useful for you. In this session, this is where we conclude talking about some extremely important topics for the innovation and entrepreneurship section in the CMAT series. In this 5 part CMAT series. We've already completed 3 with this session. Please stay tuned for the last 2 sessions. They're going to be extremely, if not more, important. And again, this is my referral code. In case you want to apply for a specific course, you want to do your GDPI preparation at a very minimal cost, or you want to apply for studying for other management exams like CMAT, ZAT, SNAP, or CAT 2026, the big chunk in itself. You can please go ahead and use my referral code to make sure we get 15% off in whatever price is quoted on the website. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow again at 5 p.m. With another 4th part in the CMAT 5-part series. Thanks a lot for joining and all the best.